Hey, what is happening? This is Robert Plank. My website is dfynarration.com, but we're going to be talking about you. We're going to be talking about you and your book and new cutting edge ways to promote your book that I guarantee you haven't even tried of or maybe even thought of before. Maybe you've thought of it, heard of it, but did not know how to actually implement. 30 seconds ago, before jumping in on this call, I told my wife, she's feeding the baby downstairs, I said I'm doing a webinar. And we got into this quick conversation about how sometimes there's the need to just show up anyway, right? And I told her like 10 years ago, I used to psych myself out. I used to say, well, I don't know if I should show up because what if there's only 50 people? Or what if there's 200 plus people? I'll be so afraid because 200 people will be hanging on to my words and maybe I'll get some people angry. And the quick resolution of the conversation was just show up anyway. And this applies to you too. If you're ever doubting, should I do a webinar? Should I make videos? Should I put out a book? Should I put out a second book? Or in our conversation today, should I put out an audiobook? Don't worry so much about the outcome. Imagine if you wanted to be like a lawyer or attorney or something, and you had to go to college, you had to go to law school, you had to get a job. Imagine if you graduated law school and said, okay, I finished step 1 of 7, but now I have to do step 2. But I won't do step 2 and 3 and 4 unless I have some sort of a guarantee that that will pay off. And it would be crazy to think that, right? If you started on a path, it's okay to change your goal. It's okay to go around or through obstacles, roadblocks, but to say, I won't even try, I won't even start, I won't even take action unless I'm guaranteed some sort of an outcome, that's just ridiculous because you don't know what the outcome will be. You have milestones along the way, but to say, I won't even try unless I know what will happen, that's a ridiculous way of doing business or operating in general. And if you are that kind of person, if you say, well, I can't do anything unless I'm really excited about what I'm doing, well, is it possible that the excitement will come later? Or is it possible that the excitement will come and go? Or is it possible that if you make the mistake of connecting the actions you take with your excitement, then you're going to be setting yourself up for failure guaranteed? Because either you're not excited enough or too excited, right? Either you're saying, well, I'm only sort of excited. I'm not like super passionate about what I'm doing right now. Maybe I'm at like a 72%. I'm not at a 98%. And so you don't really put your full effort, your full action taking into it. And then you wonder why you don't get the results that you want. Or maybe you're so excited that you can't even take action fast enough. You have 12 and a half different ideas. And do you see what I'm saying? How this whole excitement beast or linking your emotions to the things that you know you need to be doing and completing is just a recipe for failure. So instead, you have a plan, you have a goal, you have a strategy, you do those next few steps in front of you, and then you reassess, but you become aware of yourself if you always are your worst enemy, if you're always self-sabotaging, if you say, I know I get to step 2 out of 7, and then I stop. Well, maybe it ends today. Maybe this is the time to instead break the pattern, break the cycle, and talk about some fun things that are possible and doable and in the future for you personally as an existing author, a former author, a new author, or a yet-to-be-published author, including Mr. Chuck Hooper, who says listening while driving. So let's first get the prerequisites out of the way, because the goal I want today is I want you to pay me or my wife to narrate your audiobook. That's it. And if you say, I've already decided ahead of time, I'm not going to pay you money for this, Robert, for this whole audiobook thing, that's okay. Just still listen to my presentation because I guarantee you'll still have some pretty good ideas. But if you're the kind of person that says, I know I have a book and I know that publishing my book is just the first step, and then I need to take more things as far as my action because I can set up a web page, but I don't just expect people to find my web page, right? I can set up a YouTube channel, but I don't just expect people to find it. I need to do other things to proactively get people to pay attention to me. The same applies with your book. You put out a book and sure, you've put all this work into thinking of a concept, a title, a cover, a book manuscript, the pictures within your book, proofreading, editing, refining, revising your book, all those things. But once it's out there, guess what? That's step 1 of 7, because then there are other things that you can and should be doing, not all at once, but on a regular basis, a handful of activities per month consistently for a few months. That way you get the attention on you and your book and your business that you deserve. And you always hear about this with publishing books or book coaches, I guess those are out there. They say, what is the goal with your book? Don't just put out a book for the sake of it, but are you looking for speaking engagements? Are you looking to build a list and build your funnel? Are you just looking for the number of book sales? Because then there's different things that you should be doing in order to get those results for what you want to do. And I think at the very bare minimum that everyone should have a book, because at the very least, if I am looking into you, if someone comes to me, and let me try to find a recent email, because I get emails every few days from someone saying, hey, I have someone who can and should be a guest on your show. They say, I have someone who would just be like the perfect person to be on your podcast. So here we go, we're looking at just listening to your episode, and I have a possible guest for you. And then I say, who's the guest? And they say, here's this person, Fashad Rashidi, here's their website. And the very first thing that I personally do, and maybe I'm different than a lot of people, but if I want to interview someone for my podcast, that means that I'm telling my list about them. That means I'm telling my social audience about them. The very first thing I do, I say, who is this person, right? This person wants to be on my show. They want to talk about their website. But I say, well, do they have a book? Have they at least taken a few initial steps to put out 25 quick pages, small pages about what it is that they do? And so when I search someone's name, if I search your name personally, particularly, if I don't see that you have at least a quick, short book with your name, I think, I don't know, I have some doubts, right? How long has this person been in business? How established are they? How serious are they? And do they really match up with this name and this particular topic? Like if I look up like this guy, Tim Jensen, who's in the audience, we like to pick on him a lot. We have best day hikes in the Canadian Rockies. I'm not sure if that's him, right? So if this guy in the audience, Tim Jensen, came to me and he wanted to be on a podcast to talk up his nonprofits, I would say, I don't know, if he had even like a short, quickie book talking about nonprofits, or let me even look Tim Jensen up a little bit on LinkedIn, and let me see if we see Tim Jensen, Timothy Jensen. So then I say, all right, maybe if I look on Amazon for Timothy Jensen, I find even less results that could be him. He's the future author of How to Be Significant in the Lives of Others, and he is a grassroots engagement director for Americans for Prosperity. So imagine for a couple of things. Imagine how many doors would open for Tim if he had a quick book, because someone like me who, I don't know if you could call it nosy, but I'm going to do a quick search. It's the modern age, right? I'm going to search very quickly to see what sort of footprint that you have. And you always hear about these things like SEO, right? Search engine optimization. And what sort of thoughts does that conjure up? Well, you say, well, if I'm Tim Jensen and I want to be known for Americans for Prosperity, and I want to be known about being someone that can unleash economic opportunity and can build up nonprofits. And so maybe Tim Jensen wants to be linked with phrases like how to be significant in the lives of others, or he wants to be linked with Americans for Prosperity. So when you think in that sorts of terms, you say, okay, if I'm Tim Jensen, I want to boost my search engine optimization. People say, make some blog posts, make some LinkedIn posts, create some YouTube videos, do a press release. And what do all those things accomplish for you? What is the general strategy for that? It is that there are these huge websites. There's websites like Facebook.com, like Amazon.com that allow you to post content on their site. And have you heard about these terms like PageRank, where Google has just like a listing of when I put in a search query, a search phrase, which websites do we choose to rank in the listing? And if we do a quick search, which I don't even know what would come up, but if we did a Google search for Tim Jensen, what comes up? Twitter. Whoops, let me show my desktop. Twitter comes up as the number 2 result. LinkedIn comes up as the number 3 results. IMDb comes up as another front page result. Twitter again. Spotify again. Facebook again. Are you seeing the trend here? The top ranking websites in Google are websites that you have already heard of. They're these huge websites that allow you to post content on them. So the whole idea of someone like Tim getting on, putting a book out there is really to be listed on Amazon. So that way, if you search his name, imagine if there was a LinkedIn page showed up. Imagine if a YouTube page showed up. Imagine if an Amazon book showed up. And then if I search on Amazon directly, I find him as well. So that's kind of the idea here, is that people don't just randomly end up on your website. They don't randomly end up on your list, randomly end up on your webinar. Your customers and your future customers take paths in order to get to you, which means that they searched you on Amazon or they searched you on Google. So there's all kinds of benefits to having a book out there and being an author, and especially in this day and age where the dirty little secret between you and me is that it's easier than ever to have a book out there. It's probably easier than you even think it's possible, and I'll prove it to you in just a second. But it opens so many doors, and it separates you from the crowd very easily just by you having a book. So when I say you can easily have a book, here's how quick it is, all right? So first we'll grab this guy, and he doesn't know I'm doing this. I didn't even plan on doing this until 2 seconds ago. This guy, Tim Jensen, we're picking on him a little bit. I found him on LinkedIn, and I saved his photo. I saved his picture, right? And he says that he is the future author of How to Be Significant in the Lives of Others. So I think that's a perfect candidate to put out a book with his name and his title and his photo on it right here, right now. That way he can hold a book in his hand within the next few days. How cool would that be? So here's what you do, is we use a tool called lulu.com, which it allows you to just print on demand a book. And it's similar to Amazon in that they will print and they will ship a book to you as the author, and you can even have your book for sale. But then because you went to the trouble of making a book, you might as well list it on Amazon anyway. And my goal for you personally is to have a book listed on Amazon, because once your book is on Amazon, then I or my wife can narrate it. And then your book will be on Audible as well. And we'll jump into Audible in a few minutes here also. But let's just get to the first things first, which is you having a book online, and maybe even how quickly it can happen. So you go to lulu.com and we sign in, and I figure out my password. It might take you longer to figure out your password than it takes to create a book. And here's what happens is we can go to create a project. And so in a second, you know what I'll do? I'll start a stopwatch just so that we can see how quickly that this can happen. So we'll have a stopwatch ready to go. Okay, we have it already at 0 seconds. And what we'll do is we'll also use a tool called canva.com, which is basically Photoshop, but in the web. And it allows you to quickly create a cover faster than it would with Photoshop, and I would even say that your book cover comes out better in Canva than it would in Photoshop. And Canva is free, and Photoshop is like $600 or $50 a month or something crazy like that. So we'll use canva.com to create a book cover, which is free, and we'll use lulu.com to get your own book printed and shipped to you, it's also free, but you have to pay like a couple of dollars for them to print it. I think that's okay. I think that's fair. So here's what we'll do. Sight unseen. We go to this, and I guess we'll start the stopwatch, right? So here we go. We're counting up. we'll figure out how quick this can, and I might zip around really quick because I want to have a low number of minutes and seconds on the countdown clock. We'll say create a design, and I'll make it a size that I know will work. Here's our book cover, and we'll start with some template. We'll say, well, what kind of a book cover do we want? Creative, inspirational. His is how to be significant in the lives of others. So I like that idea of like an inspirational book cover. And like inspiration or so we kind of scroll through and we try to have good decision making. We say, what book cover really jumps out at us? I'm sort of liking this one. And we can click and we can see how it works. And we can even upload this photo of Mr. Tim Jensen himself and just drag it in and just kind of see how it would look, right? We can kind of position himself there and say, how to be significant in the lives of others. So let's try to find, nothing's really quite jumped out at me as far as like, this is awesome, this is exactly what I want. So let me scroll through. I like the autobiography idea. I mean, I kind of like this template, right? How to be significant in the lives of others. And we can just drag him in there. I don't like how it's so washed out, but I think we can sort of like make it a cool color or something like that, right? So we can maybe position that. I wish it was more like bluish or something, but that's just my own preference. So we'll just, and this is what's cool about this tool called Canva, is you don't even have to like know much. You just click around and somehow things happen. And you can say, well, do I like what I added or do I not like what I added? So we can click around. I think I'm making it worse. Okay. And if all else fails, you just start from another template, right? Non-fiction book cover. See what I mean? It takes longer just to make a decision than it does to click on some of these things. Book cover with author on the front, right? Let me try like autobiography. Even though it's not his autobiography, I want to have like his picture on there, right? I mean, I don't know. I guess maybe if I take the duotone off, if I make it just regular. So where did we have photogenic? Okay, maybe we'll start over, right? We'll take that off and we'll put him on there, and then we will maybe remove the background. Give that a second. We might see if okay, so we don't have a quote for the top, and we say by Tim Jensen, and I already forgot the name of his book, which is How to Be Significant in the Lives of Others. So my thinking is we do how to be, wherever we were at, how to be significant, and we'll put this near the front, in the lives of others. And maybe we'll make that bigger so that way it's clear that it's part of the whole title. Can we resize that? Let's see, try to center that. Let's see, 800. Come on, center. Did that work? All right. Then we'll stretch that out. Center. Okay. Bring that in some. Half the battle's just trying to center it just right, am I right? So there we go. Just from that little bit of clicking around, we've kind of got how to be significant in the lives of others. Maybe we'll add something like that. Oops. So that way, the transition, that way his bottom half isn't just like strangely cut off on the bottom. And we bring that, let's see, bring that down somewhat. And you get the idea. It's like when it starts to come together, you play around, you see, well, did I like it better before or after? Even Tim in the audience himself says, I like the design. Well, and this is just, ooh, I kind of like, and you see how you can click around, you're like, well, I don't like this or that color, but then when you get near the blue, you're like, all right, now ooh, now there's like the brighter blue. Okay, now we're onto something, right? Now we have this brighter blue, and maybe I'll just make the text yellow for now. Okay, so there we go. So we're not going to win any design awards, but like there's something to that, right? And even though this is centered, if I kind of, I don't know, make him a little off center, take away the guide there. There we go. So that is something that it will get us started, right? And this is at the very least, we can take this, hold the book in our hands and show it to people. And imagine if you were on a webinar or like an in-person speaking gig and you had this in book form, you can hold it in your hands. So we're 6 minutes in because we were talking. So we'll save this book cover because that's just the first step, right? And so saving. So now we have a book cover. And what we need to do is just slap this onto a book. We won't worry about the back cover. We won't worry about the pages inside. Let's get a book printed that we can hold in our hands. What we'll do is we'll then go to lulu.com, create a project, print book, and our only goal is to print the book. And the book, again, I keep having to look at even what the title of this is, right? And we'll say, how to be significant in the lives of others, English, business, design your project. And next we need to create a PDF document to hold the book. And so if you personally were like, oh my gosh, I'm so confused now. Imagine if you came to me and I said, let me just make something for you really quick. So if I were doing this, I'd go to Google Docs. I wouldn't even have to fire up any software. And I would say page size. And I would say make this 6 by 9 inches. Why? Because I said so. That's why. Made the page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 blank pages. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 blank pages. Now we have 100 blank pages. I'll go download PDF document. So what did I just do? Worked my magic and I created a blank PDF document with 100 blank pages, right? Scroll, it's all blank pages. So we can go back to this website called Lulu, upload that PDF that we just created, give it a second. Validating. Hopefully, I don't know if we can, we're not going to hit 10 minutes. Maybe we'll hit 15 minutes. So the blank book is uploaded. And then we say, let's make the inside black and white. Let's make the paper white. Let's make the binding a paperback book. Let's make the book cover glossy. And then we need to make a cover. So I'll use this tool called Canva again. And this will fire up when we upload this cover that we just created. Here we go. And I'll put that right there. And then we need to make like the back and the side, which holds people up for so many years, right? So instead, we will create a rectangle and then just size it, whatever size it needs to be. And Canva is smart enough to see this thing that says photo colors. So it says you just uploaded this picture of Tim, and we use all these colors. So we'll just grab the exact shade of blue that we already had, and we'll say use cover. And just like that, just with a few clicks, that gives us a book that is ready to be printed. And your file is uploading, your file is normalizing, it's doing whatever computering it needs to do. And it's loading this preview for us. And here we go. This is what we'll have. We'll have a front cover, just like with Tim and his title and his name. And then the spine will be blue and the back will be blue. And could we fill in his bio? Could we put some text on the spine? Sure. But this is something that he could hold in his hand right here, right now. So we click on Review Book. We confirm everything that needs to be confirmed. Waiting. Your book is nearly complete. Add to cart. Added to cart. And now when I go in and check out, this costs $3.75 to print. And then if I were to mail this to myself, so I guess we'll stop the timer right now. So it took us 11 minutes, 22 seconds, even with us talking, to go from we have his name and his book title to grabbing his photo, choosing colors, adding the book title, creating just some blank pages. And now we have a book that we can ship to ourselves. And if I were to ship this to myself, just out of curiosity, this would cost me about $9.67. If I wanted to get this in about a week or two, if I was really in a hurry, I could get it express shipping. I can get it for $25 in just a few days from now and have a book that I can hold in my hand. So it is possible if you know what to do. And I'm sure that you can imagine that if I told you, just get a book printed, just figure out a cover and figure out like your photo and figure out a title. Imagine all the various places where you will get stuck. And Tim says, I'll take it if you're willing to send it to me. So Tim, send me an email right now. I know you have my email address. Give me your mailing address and I'll get it shipped to you as soon as this webinar is over. I promise you. And so he'll take the $10 too. Don't worry about it. I'll just send it to you at cost. And imagine if you personally were able to do this. If you said, I've got this book, and imagine if you sent a message to your people. And I'll send a message right now. And this is a thing that you should be doing with your own book. Is you log in, you go to your list, and what I'll do is I'll get an email fired up. Come on. So as soon as my entrepreneur logs in, I'll send an email blast right now, and I'll say to my subscribers, give me your mailing address, and I'll send you my book. So this is the thing that almost no one does, almost no one teaches, but everyone should be doing. And you send a subject line saying, give me your United States mailing address, and I'll send you my book. Can I send you a copy of my book? It's called WWHW, Why, What, How to, What, If. And it's all about knowing exactly what to say in your book, blog post, podcast, or course. I want to send it to for free. You don't even pay shipping. Just reply to this email with your mailing address, United States only, and I'll drop a copy in the mail today. P.S. If you want a free copy of the audiobook instead, or also, please tell me that, and I'll give you a special code. There you go. People are always thinking about, oh, I don't have an idea for what to send in to my email list, or what can I link them to? There's no link here, right? Imagine if you just sent an email today, right now, even if you only had 10 subscribers, 100 subscribers, and you said, can I send you a copy of my book? Imagine you'd get like 5 different ways of warming a person up, right? Number 1, you have that customer or that subscriber's physical mailing address. Now you can send other things to them. Number 2, it gets them to open your emails, gets them to respond to your emails. And you always hear these days about artificial intelligence and algorithms. And the thing with email clients, such as Gmail, is they're never quite sure if the messages that come to you are the messages that you want to receive, right? They don't know if it's spam or not. But Gmail says, well, if an email came in and if Tim Jensen responded to an email that came in, is that spam? Like, do you ever respond to spam? Well, you never do, right? Versus if your mom or your grandma emailed you and you replied to an email to your grandma, Gmail would say, well, that's not spam because you're clicking reply and you're responding to this. So think about this. You as a business owner, you have an email list, you have subscribers. If you can get your subscribers to respond to you in some way, that is telling the algorithm that you are not spam. And you hear about this in like a social media context, right? If you make a post on Facebook and someone likes or comments or shares your post, Facebook says, hey, that's not spam. That's something that got the person to respond. But so few people think about this in terms of like old school email communication. Get someone to respond and get them to give you their mailing address. And there's even another bonus of they get your book in the mail. And again, think about the people that you follow, right? Think about the marketers list that you're on. Are you on hundreds? Are you on thousands? Maybe. But how many have you responded to? How many have sent you something in the mail? Very, very few. So even if you're like resisting and balking about, I gotta drop $5 or $7 per person to drop a copy of my book in the mail, that money will come back to you because you're qualifying these people that are on your list. Now they're no longer just dud subscribers. They're people that open your email, respond to your email, and have received a copy of your book in the mail. And now it's up to you as a business owner, as a marketer, to maybe follow up with that person in, say, 2 or 3 weeks after they've received your book and see if they like it, if they can leave a review, if they've read it, if they've even gotten the package. So don't just let this go to waste, but send a copy of your book and then make a note to follow up with these very, very few people who respond to you, because there's always that fear of like, oh, what if I have to send out thousands of books? Believe me, you won't. Very few people will respond, a small percentage, and that's a small percentage of your customers that you should now be focusing on. So we'll click the send now button. We'll broadcast this right here, right now. And I sent an email to my list, you saw me type it, saying I will, at my own cost, send you a copy of my book to you in the mail. Not a free plus shipping, not a you only pay $5 or $10, but 100% absolutely free. I will send a copy of my book in the mail. And I've sent out hundreds of copies of my book, if not more, for free at my cost, because I want to get the word out. And people very rarely throw out books. They'll throw out a letter or a postcard, but a book, very rarely. And you don't want to just send out thousands of copies of your book. You want to send out your book to those people that have already qualified themselves and already said, hey, I'm a responsive subscriber. I care enough to click reply and to type out my mailing address, and that should be rewarded. And in the same way that, people geek out about technology, right? They say, well, I want to have my subscribers click a link, and they just click one link and they're auto-registered to my webinar, and that way they just have to show up. But there's something to be said about if someone's already your email subscriber, make them re-sign up for the webinar that you want them to attend to. If they're already your email subscriber, make them go and find you on Facebook and add you on Facebook, because there's something to be said about just having your subscribers jump through a few more little hoops and if nothing else, get the magic feeling back of when they first joined your list and anything was possible. Have them get the magic feeling back of registering for your webinar and or asking you for your book in the mail. And you and I both know that you need to have a book in place for this to happen, and I've already taken care of the first obstacle of how do you deal with the technical clicks. And you just saw that in a few minutes, in 12 minutes to be exact, even with us talking, we figured out a book cover, we made a few clicks, and we were able to get a book sent in the mail. And so you need to start and finish your dang book. But if you say, okay, well, that part was easy, right? I got my title, my cover. What about the inside of my book? Real quick, in just a few minutes here, it's a 5-step process, but the steps go in reverse, right? Because maybe the reason why you're stuck with your book is because you're trying to appeal to everybody. You're not thinking in terms of who's my ideal prospect, right? They throw around that term, and very few people think in terms of I'm me, right? I'm Robert Plank, and there's someone at the end of some kind of path that I want to be someone that buys from me, that joins my course, that pays me for coaching. Maybe it's Tim Jensen, maybe it's Chuck Hooper, maybe it's Kingsley Smith, maybe it's Larry Smith, maybe it's Andrew Cohen, maybe it's Kevin Craig, maybe it's Mike Harrison, maybe it's one of these other people. But we say, let me have an exact person in my mind, right? A person that I know from my customer list, my social media presence, and I say, let me just have this exact person that I am envisioning in my mind who needs my help, right? Who needs my help with audiobook narration, setting up a podcast. In your case, maybe it is someone that needs their nonprofit set up. Maybe it's someone that needs help flipping a house. Whatever it is, you think in your mind, what exact person are you helping using your book, and what specific and urgent problem do they have? Don't think about in vague terms a customer avatar. Think about it, but keep it to yourself. What exact one singular person are you helping out, and what exact problem do they have that they need your help with? So you take it one step back and you think to yourself, what 10 questions would Tim Jensen have to solve his problem, and in what order would those questions happen? And this is where you bust out the notebook, you bust out the Microsoft Word or something, and you just list out what are 10 questions that Tim would have, and then you can play around with the order, and you think of 10 questions. And in a moment here, each question you think of is going to be a chapter. So maybe I could think of, okay, one question could be, how do I create my cover? And I could jump into, well, there's that Canva tool. You take a photo of yourself. You choose a template. You change colors. You change text. There's enough to unpack there. That could be one of 10 questions that come up in regards to your book. One of the 10 questions is, what would my cover be like? So you think of these 10 questions, and then you do something painful. You reduce the 10 questions down to 7 questions. You ask, if you had to reduce those 10 questions that Tim Jensen asked about creating his book, and I had to get it down to 7, meaning maybe I had to delete question number 9. Maybe I had to merge questions 3 and 4. Maybe Tim asked about editing and proofreading his book, and that could just be rolled into some other chapter. But now we're limiting ourselves from 10 questions to just 7 questions that Tim might have asked about his book. And then we say, okay, well, now I'm almost there, right? Because you can imagine that if I answered those 7 questions, if I answered the 7 questions of how do I write my book? How do I make my cover? How do I name my book? How do I upload my book? How do I make sales of my book? You're seeing that each of these 7 questions could be a short chapter of my book, but you still might be stuck. And here's where it gets a little on the advanced side, where we break down those 7 questions into 4 sub-questions each. So if a hypothetical question that Tim may have asked is, how do I create a book cover? And we would, if we're stuck about answering that, we would say, well, why is it important that you have a book cover, and what elements should you look into? Next, we answer the question of, what tools do we use to create your book cover? We use your photo, we use Canva, we use Lulu. Next, how do I create my book cover? And we say, you click here, you click that, you start with this step, you get to that step, and then what are the next steps after I create my book cover? Well, now that you create your book cover, you can send yourself a copy in the mail, and you can get to work on the inside of your book. And then you kind of do the actual implementation, taking action part. You answer those questions. And at first, now here comes the self-sabotage again, right? I said you take 10 questions, reduce down to 7. Oh, I can't answer 7 questions. But what if you answered 7 times 4? If you answered 28 smaller questions? Oh, 28 questions? That's so many questions to answer. But what if you only took 2 minutes to answer each of those 28 questions? Well, that's only an hour. And what if you answered like 5 questions today, 5 more quick questions tomorrow, and you just spent 2 minutes on each one? Then you could inch along, and before the end of the week, even from just only spending 1 commercial break's length of time on your book, by the end of the week, you could have a book done. Or if you were so excited, you could have your book done before the next time you went to the bathroom, or before the next time you ate a meal. You could have your book done within the next hour or so. And so this is kind of the step-by-step process that whenever I deviate from this plan, it always fails 100% of the time. And then I tell myself, I need to, instead of being crazy, simplify and follow a proven system. This is what ends up getting a book created. And as I said, my goal is for you to have a book in place. That way, me and the wife can narrate it. And we'll jump into some more book stuff, but really quick, I just want to explain this. Get this idea put in your head. Our website is dfynarration.com, and we kind of list everything you need to know right here. Is that when you get your book listed in audiobook form, it means that you tap into this whole new audience of people. You might have heard some of these statistics about how, like, the most successful people, instead of watching a lot of TV, they read a lot of books. But because successful people are busy, instead of reading, they really are listening to an audiobook while they're commuting, while they're driving, while they're exercising. They're listening to audiobooks. And there's a whole community, a whole marketplace of listeners that you have been missing out on. Because you know that people always listen to like podcasts and YouTube videos and things like that. But then there are people that, those same types of people, the listeners who want to take the next step, they then listen to audiobooks. And the thing with Audible.com specifically, they're like the largest audiobook marketplace. They do it based on credits. So I don't know if you remember back in the day of when you would buy an audiobook, it was like $50, right? You'd go to the Borders or Barnes & Noble, and you'd get like a big box of all these like cassette tapes or CDs. It was like $50. They had like 9 tapes or 9 discs. But now the way that Audible does it is they have a credit system, and there's like a free trial. And more or less the way it works is that people buy into an Audible membership, and then they get, I think, like 1 credit or 2 credits per month. And so basically they're compiling all these credits that they have to use. And I don't know why Audible does it this way. Maybe because it feels less like they're spending money on your audiobook because they're just spending their credits. I'm not sure why. But anyone who has an Audible membership probably has all these credits built up. So they're actually looking for audiobooks to redeem on. And here's something else to think about is, say you go to Amazon and say you're Tim Jensen, I don't know, like nonprofit marketing or something, like how to grow your nonprofit, right? And so we say building a nonprofit, but if we search, there's over 1,000, whoops, I need to show my search box. So I searched Amazon for nonprofit marketing. There's over 1,000 books, right? If I even limit it to just books, somehow that increased it. Somehow there's 4,000 results from nonprofit marketing. I'm not sure if they're all, maybe they all are nonprofit marketing, but there's like book after book about marketing your nonprofit. Versus if we go to Audible, I don't know how many results will be, but I guarantee it won't be as many. Because for the very simple reason that in order for someone to have an audiobook, they already have to have an existing book on Amazon. So check this out, only 26. So imagine if you wanted to put out something new to say, and that's always the problem, right? Is you say, well, I have something to say, but the problem is that everyone's already taken my thunder, right? There's already a book on that. But then you say, well, I want to make something that's new and crazy, never been done before. But then if it's not proven, then who will even want it? So I know you think about this. I know that this drives you crazy too, that you say, I want to put something out there that has demands, but also is unique and does not have tons of competition. Imagine if you searched Amazon for weight loss and we limited it to books. Yeah, just books, 60,000 results in Amazon for weight loss. And I'm sure Audible will have a lot, but if you search weight loss on Audible, now we go from 60,000 to 3,000 results. So still competitive, but we're down to just 5%, right? If we search Amazon for real estate books, which will also be huge, 50,000, but we search Audible for real estate, now we're over 1,000. So we went from 50,000 down to 1,000. So that's 2%. So do you want to be in the bottom 98%, or do you want to be in the top 2% of those that went to the trouble, the few hours of creating an audiobook? And as you know, so many people have an idea for a book. So many people have started a book. So just the fact that you're thinking about creating a book puts you ahead of most people. When, not if, but when you finish your written book, it can be a short book, but just finishing puts you in the super top percent again. And then if you actually market your book and think and just do a handful of actions every week, like post a YouTube video, market your book on LinkedIn, promote it using your Kindle free days, as they call it, just those few actions will put you even further in just those top few percentage points of people that actually do something with their book. They don't just publish a book and sit around and wait for people to find it, just like you would be crazy to put out a website and wait for someone to find your website. So there are some small, quick actions, activities that you can and should take in order to change your book from something that you got tired as soon as you clicked the publish button to it was just step 1 of 7, and now you began marketing your book. So let's talk about some of those technical details. In order to create a book, you go to kdp.com, you upload a Word document, you upload a graphic, you set your title and description, and you set your price, and you click publish. It's very similar to the quick steps that we showed a little while ago of just getting your book out there and online. Amazon wants you to publish a book the same way that the DMV wants you to drive a car. You have to go through a few steps just to follow the rules, but Amazon and Jeff Bezos and all the rest, they want you to have your book online. You just have to click the right buttons and follow a few simple rules. So if you want to increase your book sales or have any book sales, think in terms of list, traffic, and offers. Because if you want to double your book sales, what would you do, right? You have a couple of options. You can either double your list, double your traffic, or you can double your offers. And you might think, okay, well, I'll just put out another book. So if I put out a book and it made 100 sales, I'll just write a whole second book and get 100 more sales. Doesn't that sound ridiculous though? Or you could double the size of your list. If you have 10,000 customers on your list, okay, I just need to have 20,000 customers on your list. That sounds crazy too. Or just find a new traffic source. Instead of writing a second book or building a second mailing list, just find some new audience to discover you and your book. But here's the problem with traffic. It's easy for me to say, find some new traffic website that will find you and your book. The problem is your choices are free or paid. Free means it's slow, it's inconsistent, there's a lot of rules, a lot of work, right? Gotta rank in Google, get my page rank, I've gotta submit articles, seems like a lot of just slow going. Or if you go for paid ads, what does that mean? It means either you're spending all these thousands of dollars just for ads where no one's really clicking, or maybe no one's really viewing, and there's a lot of trial and error, and it's not uncommon for even the most experienced marketers who teach advertising to say, well, you're gonna waste $10,000, $20,000 just to figure out a few ads that are working, only to start all over again, because you spend all this money, all this time trying and testing and tweaking, and you find a good ad, but then it stops working and you have to start from scratch and figure out a whole new advertisement again. So what's the answer? If free sucks, if paid sucks, the solution are outside the box, measurable traffic methods that get you what you want. Try some experiments. Say, let me try getting traffic from this over to my book, and then a couple weeks later, see if that worked for you. And imagine if you found 7 new ways to market your book, and if each one only boosted your sales by 10.5%, you wouldn't get a 70% increase, you'd get a double increase just because they would all compound for you and on you. So here are some ideas that I'm going to throw out there for you and your book marketing. The first one is to use what are called your Kindle free days. And so Amazon wants you to market your book, and when you log in to where your book is, you can go to where there's a button that says promote and advertise, and you can choose to do a free book promotion, and I've already claimed it, so it doesn't show me any dates where I could be doing it, but they will allow you to put out your book for a few days for free. Actually, I just checked, and I think I can promote this one. Aha. So here's the thing, is you click on promote your book, right? And you can say, I want to do a free book promotion, and I will make my book free on Amazon. Normally it's 99 cents, but from March 31st to April 4th, it will be free on Amazon. And just by clicking that button, this will get us a bunch of downloads of our book, and this will get us a few more extra reviews of our book. And if you add your own traffic, your own people, that's even more people that are exposed to your book. And very few people even know to click that button. Most people just put out a book, they don't click on the free days, and then they are just wondering why the book is sitting there, not making any sales. So Amazon, every 90 days, they allow you to have your book for free for 5 days. But who even remembers that? Who remembers to go back every 90 days? The answer is to get organized. So I myself have a spreadsheet like this with a list of my books, and then I have a column for when I ran a promotion and when it stopped. So we just said that we set one up for March 30th through April 3rd, and on that page it says that we are ending on June 18th. So on June 19th, I can come back and I can claim my 5 more free days. So I'll say in this spreadsheet, June 19th. And I know that I have another book called Course Correct, which tomorrow it will be available. But I also have a book, Marketer of the Day, which I think I can do my free days on that one as well. So I'll go to my bookshelf, and I find, there's this, the marketer of the day book. Here we go. Promote and advertise. Free book promotion. And same deal, March 31st through April 4th. And then on June 26th, I'll be able to run that again. So June 26th, and then said the 31st through the 4th, I think. Was that right? I hope so. I think so. And then so then I can just have this spreadsheet, and at any time I can say, okay, well, whatever date it is, I'll know that I can set all these other books for free. And it's just a simple way of getting organized, and maybe once every quarter, or even if you did this once or twice a year, that is more than most people do, and that is probably more than you currently do at the moment. Sorry to say, but being honest. Next is an idea for you to go on Fiverr, all right? So Fiverr has all kinds of people that they have goofy traffic methods. They might have like a Pinterest board or a large Twitter following, but you search for Kindle promotion. And there are people here, you can pay $10, $5, $50, $15. It doesn't even matter which one you start with. Just try hiring one person to promote your book for you. And you click a button and they say, I'll promote your ebook to 2.5 million real book buyers. And you pay them money, you try them out for $10, and then when you check out, they'll ask you for the link to your Amazon book, and you just see what happens, right? And if you can coordinate this, if you can set your free days, and maybe set your free days to start maybe in like 3 days from now, or set it for 3 days from now, order this Fiverr gig now and tell them my free days are starting, April whatever to April whatever. And so that way they know which exact days to promote your book. And you can just try someone out for $5, $10. And if you got even a little bit of a boost, then return and try them again for $50 or so. You can create custom copies for your prospects. And this is one of my favorite things to do, is that on Lulu.com, you saw that we clicked around, right? And you saw that we could just make an empty book and have the cover. And what we can do here is, so I put out the same book again and again, but with different people on the cover. So if I scroll back to some earlier, of course it clicked back for me. So if I open up, gotta find exactly the right link. Come on. So it won't let me right click. So if I want to find these side by side to show you for a second. Even though we're kind of going at a time, over time for the webinar. That's okay though. So here's what I'm talking about. This is the same book, and I'm clicking back and forth. It's the same book, same number of pages, but there's a different author on the cover. So imagine if you were really trying to make an impression. Imagine if you were trying to land a joint venture partner, or get on someone's podcast, or speak on someone's stage, or present to someone's organization. What if you did those few clicks we showed earlier, where we made the cover and uploaded it? And what if you sent the same copy of your book, but with a different cover each time? What if you made 10 different copies of your book with different covers, and you kind of put someone else's picture on there that you were trying to impress, or you were trying to get the attention of, and you put their photo next to yours on the cover of your book? No one does it, but it's easy to do in a few clicks. You can and should create a podcast named after your book and invite 12 guests. So it's easy to overthink your podcast and say, I need to come up with there's a name for my book, there's a name for my company, a name for my cool podcast. Just name your podcast the same as your book. Don't you want to rank for that phrase anyway? Why would you split up work for yourself? If you have a book called WWHW, you have a book called the WHW Podcast. And I made one, I really did do this. I made one and I put out a couple of episodes, but I do have a main podcast. And if you don't have a podcast and you've been wondering, like, what should it be about? Well, you have a whole book of topics. And if you say, I don't know who I want to associate with or who I want to get attention of about my book, just create a podcast and then invite, and like Tim Jensen should invite 12 different guests. Well, first he should invite his boss and his coworkers, but imagine if he went out and if he invited other nonprofits people, and he had them on as the guests for his, I can't remember what we called it, right? It was like the Future of America book, or the How to Be Significant in the Lives of Others. So if Tim Jensen here had this book called How to Be Significant in the Lives of Others, now that's on Amazon, and then he puts out a podcast called How to Be Significant in the Lives of Others. Now that's on iTunes and Google Play, and it gets a little technical, but you can get your podcast on Spotify, iHeartRadio, and even Audible. So your podcast can be on Audible. So now he's ranking for this title in all sorts of different ways. And then he invites other guests who have things to say about being significant. Now there's a whole universe of, and he can invite anyone who has been significant in some way. They can be a nonprofit, but they can be an activist. They can be a thought leader. They can be people that Tim knows from his travels, teachers he's had, students he's had, mentors he's looked up to. He can go after other authors who he might think are too far out of his league, but you never know unless you try. And he can have a podcast full of significant people. And what's even a cool idea is that, you can always revise your book, right? You can always edit your book and then re-upload it. Like if we look at the front page of this WWHW book here, we have Chuck Cooper, who's on the call, but he's driving. He bought the book a bunch of years ago and posted a review on Amazon. And I just went and copied that review on Amazon and put it in the book itself. So imagine if someone like Tim Jensen had his book and he said a few things in a few pages. He created a podcast and he had some guests on his podcast, and he noticed a few snippets or a few quotes that would work really well, just dropping in as a quote on page 32. So he could take clips from his podcast and use them as extra quotes in like kind of the updated edition of his Amazon book. How do you update a book on Amazon? You click re-upload my Word document, and any new copies come out as that new updated edition. What a time to be alive. So you can and should create a podcast with the same name as your book. That way you rank for that anyway. And what does having a podcast lead to? It's you being on other shows, right? Because there's so many podcasts out there. You know this, you've seen them, but how do you get on some of those shows? Well, there's all kinds of things that you could try and think of and say, but if you can do a little bit of a swap, if you can get someone on your show and then you're on their show, that seems to be the most frictionless way of going about it. Instead of trying to do all this convincing and all this, I do you a favor, me do you a favor, just say, I'll be on your show, you be on my show. It's a numbers game. You see who agrees to it, and there you go. That's how you can appear on 12 other shows talking about your book. Because so many times, like I have a podcast where I've had 800 plus guests, and the problem is that some of these guests, they're just there to plug their website. And it feels a little like a kind of sales infomercial. But if they're there to plug a book, we have a lot to chew on. We have a lot of ideas and concepts. We can talk about, why did you write this book? What was surprising to you? Or what's a quick nugget about your book? It's like there's a lot more content to jump into if my guest has a book other than go to my website, buy my stuff. So if you have a book, that opens up so many more doors for you. Create a hardcover version of your book. Did you know that on Amazon you can create a hardcover copy? And here's, well, if I can even find find a web page. Here's how it could work. Is you go to kdp.amazon.com, and the same place we were adding our book, you just click on create a new Kindle ebook. But when you put out your book, you see that you can then click on, I want a hardcover as well. So you're just a couple of clicks away from saying, I already have a book that someone can download, or they can get the paperback version, but you do a couple of extra clicks, and now you have a hardcover version as well. So few people have a hardcover copy of your book. And my thinking is that any new way that my book can be listed, especially for free, I'm in, right? If I put up my digital version of my Kindle book, I'd be crazy not to just click the button and also have the paperback version. I'd be crazy to not click another button and also have the hardcover version. And you personally, as an existing or future author, you would be crazy not to have an Audible version of your book as well, because you go to Amazon, right? Say someone searches my name and they find the book, and they can get the Kindle version or the paperback. Why wouldn't I want to have the audiobook version as well? If someone went to audible.com, and if they search for my name, why wouldn't I want to be listed in the search results for Audible? And you can see that there's multiple ways someone can find you, right? They can find you because they're specifically looking on Audible for your book, or they might have found your book on Amazon, but there's the audiobook button as well. So why wouldn't you just use that extra traffic method, that extra sales channel of you having your book in audiobook form? And to answer Kevin Craig's question, will Audible publish my recording if my book is not print anywhere? That's why so you need to have a book already on Amazon. That's why I'm so I don't know if pushy is the right word, but just so focused on you having a book, because you can't say I just want to have an audiobook, and you shouldn't. You should have multiple ways of someone finding you. You have a book on Amazon, you do a couple of clicks, and then you claim your book as something that you want to make an audiobook for. And if you have a brand new book, or it's coming out this month and you want to start with a bang, then have your book on Audible. That way you can multiply your sales. But even if you have put out a book, maybe you put it out like a year or two ago, why not create the audiobook version to breathe new life into the sales of your book? And you combine it with using these free days. You combine it with creating the hardcover version of your book. You combine it with using some of those Fiverr, $5 or $10 traffic methods. And then this way, you can be listed on Audible. You can rank easier, because I've shown you again and again how there is way less competition in those search results. And there's also so many extra benefits of Audible. One is that you make more money per copy of your book. You don't have a lot of control over how Audible prices your book. So they might give your book away for free if someone's already the paying member. It might be like $12, it might be $7, but it definitely will be more than the few pennies that Amazon Kindle gives you just for the regular paperback or just the digital book. And so you don't really have exact control over the precise pricing of every copy of your audiobook, but it's most likely more than you're already getting per copy in your Kindle version. And I know that I've had this Checklist Mindset audiobook. It sold 300 copies. This WWHW book has sold 800 copies. And so there's no guarantee that you'll sell a ton of copies, because you need to use this in combination with all of your other marketing magic, but it needs to be done. You need to have a book in audiobook form, so that way you get this extra source of buyers, of listeners, of followers, of these new future customers who are hopping in and joining your funnel. And there's even more things that we don't even have time to get into, like you can give out special promo copies of your audiobook to specific individuals that you know to then get extra sale, extra review. There's all kinds of goodies. You get what's called a bounty if someone decides to join Audible in order to listen to your book. They throw you $50. This has happened to me a handful of times. I've earned $50 a pop from Audible because somebody joined Audible to listen to my audiobook. And so you need to be doing these things. Use your free days, buy Kindle promotion Fivers, create custom cover copies, create a quick podcast, appear on podcasts, create a hardcover. But you can see that we're kind of going in reverse order with these steps. What's something simple and easy for you to do right here, right now? Well, it's for you to create an audio book version of your book. Remember how earlier we said that you need to be doubling or 2xing the sales of your book? And there's all these things that you could do, like use this or that traffic source. And one thing that we said was a little crazy was create a second book. Right? That seems like a lot of work. Well, what if the second book was just your original book, but in the audio version, the audio format, your existing book that's on Amazon is also on Audible? Well, that's what we're talking about today, right? In these last few minutes here, we're saying that Amazon, surprise, Amazon owns like Whole Foods, I think, but they also own Audible, the audiobook marketplace. And you can, if you want to do it yourself, as they say, you can go to acx.com and find your book that's already on Amazon, claim it, and then you could speak out your book. And you claim your existing audiobook and then upload the audio chapters. And I hear this so often, like, oh, I put my heart and soul, I put the last 6 years into painstakingly writing every word of my book. It would just make sense if I was the person that narrated it as the author. And I think about that for a second until I say, so you as the author narrate it. Okay, who's like a really famous author? Let's see, Stephen King, right? That's kind of like a go-to. So we say, okay, this book, Billy Summers by Stephen King, narrated by Paul Sparks. Oh, that's weird. Narrated by Santino Fontana. Narrated by Grover Gardner. So not only does Stephen King not narrate his own books, but he doesn't even have a consistent narrator. It's just, as long as there's if it's a male book and a man's reading it, I can see, it'll still make sense. Right? If it's a female written book and a female's narrating it, that's all I need to know. It's like Tom Cruise is playing the actor. I don't need to believe that it's actually him who's the person that I'm listening to, if that makes any sense. If you search, I don't know, James Patterson, he puts out all kinds of garbage, right? Narrated by Joshua Cain. None of these say narrated by James Patterson. J.K. Rowling, right? I'm not even sure what's going to happen here. So we say J.K. Rowling, narrated by Jim Dale, Stephen Fry, never narrated by J.K. Rowling. So that's interesting, right? That it does not have to be narrated by the author. And is anyone really going to notice? If you were not the narrator of your own book, would anyone say, I was going to listen to this Tim Jensen book, but Tim Jensen's not the narrator? Forget it, I'm out. If anything, me as a listener, I would be more impressed that you had someone else do the narration of your book. That way there's a whole team at work and it's not necessarily you. So I hear that a lot, that I need to be the one that narrates, that uploads, that does anything and everything. But imagine if you use that logic to anything in your life. I've got to milk the cow. I've got to build my own house. I've got to pump my own water. I've got to sew my own clothes. At some point, just have someone else do it. That way you can get on with your life. And if you did it yourself, here's what you'd have to do. Is you could go out and buy a microphone. The one I'm using right now that I also use for narrating is called a Samsung C01U. It's not the most fanciest microphone, but it gets the job done. Getting into more higher end stuff doesn't make a difference. You get a microphone arm. See, this is coming down on an arm, and you just kind of like bolt it, or you screw it into the the desk next to you. You make sure that you're in a quiet room, and I kind of had like this foam on the wall, if you can see that. And you get like a mouse. It's called a gaming mouse, so that when you click the mouse, it doesn't make any noise, like the click on the recording. And then with ACX, what they call it, there's just all kinds of rules. We talked earlier about rules, didn't we? How you have to, and if you were to look all this stuff up, let's say you're not looking it up, but if you were, it would say you need these things called opening and closing credits. You need mono or stereo files. You need to, in opening credits, you need to like say the title and written by. And there's just like a million rules, right? You have to have your audio between 23 and 18 decibel RMS, 3 or minus 3 decibel peak values, noise floor. Set it up at a certain MP3 bit rates. These can't be 120 minutes. I think there's some stuff about here of no more than 5 seconds of silence at the beginning and end. Don't forget this, make sure to narrate chapter 1 or chapter 2 at the beginning of each of your chapters. And you have to have a retail sample between 1 and 5 minutes long. So you see there's like 22 and a half things to kind of keep straight in your head. And if you're the kind of person that's done a ton of audiobooks before, then cool, just knock out the steps pretty quick and simple. But if it's your first rodeo, oh man, I need to make sure that I know I'm going to get at least 7 things wrong just right here out of the gate. But you do need to do like opening and closing credits. And to record it, I'm happy to tell you how I record stuff. And I use this program here called Audacity. And I say I'll make a new track, and I'll name my new track. And then what we would do is, let's say we pulled open the manuscript, and we seem to be picking on Tim Jensen a lot today. That's okay. And his book is called How to Be Significant in the Lives of Others. So we would hit the record button and we would say, How to Be Significant in the Lives of Others, written by Tim Jensen, narrated by Robert Plank. And then we make another track of what's it called, the closing credits, because Amazon needs us to say this, and we'd say, This has been How to Be Significant in the Lives of Others, written by Timothy Jensen, narrated by Robert Plank. Copyright 2022, Timothy Jensen. Production copyright by Timothy Jensen. And I'm also making a mental note in my head that Amazon and Audible, they need everything to match. So if we say Timothy Jensen is on the cover, we need to say Timothy Jensen in the opening and closing credits, and the book title has to all make sense. And then what we do is when we've narrated all of these chapters of our book, when we spent hours and hours speaking all this out, we can dump out our audio files. And then what we do is we use what's called a macro, and we go tools, macros, and we do all these things. My screen's kind of small, but we do like a noise reduction, noise gate, filter curve, RMS, limiter, trim silence, all these things. And then what we do is we start kind of processing it, and this progress bar goes all the way to the end. It goes all the way to the end, and it just kind of does all kinds of audio processing in order to have it in an acceptable format for Amazon to accept it. Because at some point in your life, you've heard bad sound. You've heard bad audio, right? Maybe there was just a recording that was like really, really old or really bad, or it got quiet and too loud and quiet, right? And so Amazon just wants us to avoid that. And so we have to do all these clicks, do all these things. And you're more than welcome to figure out the software, to figure out all of those Audible rules, to figure out all the nooks and crannies and all the ways it could go wrong, and spend all those hours narrating a book that, for all you know, all those hours might be gone to waste because you narrated it incorrectly. And then you have to make sure to meet all the requirements for a noise floor, equalization, RMS, and you submit your book, and it might take a few days, and Amazon says, oh, no, we won't accept it. You have to go back and fix your audio again. So there's so many things, and it has to be like MP3 format and this bit rate. There's a million ways to go wrong. And have you ever gone down a path like that before? Let's say that you just wanted to change a light bulb in your house. You said, oh no, the light bulb went out again. And you went and said, well, let me go and fix the light switch, but it turns out the bulb's not broken, it's the switch on the wall. So you went to go and you rummaged around the drawers, and you went to go find a screwdriver to open up the faceplate, but the trunk drawer, it wasn't opening correctly. So you said, well, let me go out to the garage to get some oil to grease up the drawer, and I couldn't find the oil, so I went to go and find a flashlight, but the batteries in the flashlight were dead, so I hopped in the car to go to the store to get some new batteries for the flashlight, but the car wouldn't start. Next thing you know, you were just trying to change a light bulb, but you ended up with thing after thing after thing. I just wanted to sell some books. Let me make an audiobook version. Next thing you know, now I'm learning Audacity. Now I'm buying this microphone. Now I'm learning all of these rules. There's got to be a better way, right? There's got to be a simpler way. And it's this. What if I, Robert Plank, narrated it for you? Or if you have a female written book, then my wife, Katie Plank, can narrate the book for you instead. Yes, me personally. Now, the wife and I were really good at time management. We enjoy doing it. We both wake up early before the baby wakes up. We get a little bit of narrating knocked out, and then we start our day. So we're good at time management. Don't worry about how much work it is for us. Don't worry about how much time it is for us. We will get your audiobook narrated in 7 business days or less, depending on what our current workload is. And this needs to be your existing Amazon book, okay? You need to have a book already on Amazon. You can claim it on Audible, and now that means you have less competition and a new audience. And the good news here is that you don't have to worry about the equipment, the software, the time, the troubleshooting. It's just done. And I know that you're already picturing in your head, like, man, an audiobook, that's going to cost like $2,000, $5,000. Put that aside for the moment and just think about how much less worried it would be if this was just done and you had just yet one more way for someone to find you and your book, and you could focus on whatever else you were focusing on and not getting in the car to fix the car, to get the oil, to get the batteries for the flashlight, for the junk drawer, for the light bulb that you wanted to change in the first place. Get back to being on podcasts and all that. Get back to blogging. Get back to networking on social media. Why would you want to jump in with all this audiobook production when there's a million ways where it could go wrong? Well, this is called dfynarration.com, where we narrate your audiobook in 7 business days, male or female. It's just a flat rate. Who cares about how long your book is? We just get it done. It's male or female narration, regardless of your audiobook length. If it's 1 hour, if it's 5 hours, let me just get it done for you. The book will be recorded and published to your Audible account. So after you check out at dfynarration.com, I'll walk you through how to set up this special account. We'll record your book, and we will log into your account. That way you still hold the copyrights and everything. You still have total control over it. You see the number of sales. You get the royalty checks. It's still your everything. I'm just the narrator who is working for you. And you even get the original audio files in case you ever need them or want to use them for something else. It's just $500. And it's done in 7 days. It's not $5,000, it's not $2,000, it's not $1,000, it's not $700. It's just $500 to get your book put in Audible formats. And what you do now is you type in www.dfynarration.com in your web browser. You click the $500 button and you check out. After you check out, there's a place where you can fill in your form, upload your book manuscript for us, and the next step from our end to you is for us to get back to you in 24 hours with the first 15 minutes clip of your audio. That way you say, I've already heard your voice, I've already sent you the audiobook manuscript, and let me listen to my book coming alive of the first 15 minutes. That way, okay, I feel good about you narrating the next number of hours from it. So after you approve that, we'll continue the book, and then when it's done, we'll upload it right into your Audible account, which is free because Amazon wants you to have an audiobook. It's free to publish it on Amazon. It's just that then Amazon sends you the whatever royalties you are owed by them when you make sales of your audiobook. So hurry up, go ahead, do it right now. Go here to dfynarration.com. I'll go there with you. We go to dfynarration.com, and here's the information about what we can do, and you can watch this video to listen to both of our voices. People ask, all these different questions like, well, shouldn't it be me narrating the audiobook? No, it doesn't have to be. You can put your own voice in all kinds of things. Your podcast, your YouTube video. The only thing I have to say about audiobooking is just that there's so many nooks and crannies with the time it takes and the equipment and the software and the uploading and everything. I would just rather do it for you or my wife if you have a female written book. The place to go is dfynarration.com. You go to the bottom, you click on this audiobook creation $500 button. This pop-up appears, and now this is where you can fill in your information to check out for $500 to get your audiobook. So there's nothing else left to do on this call other than to go to dfynarration.com, check out the webpage, click on the button, check out, and send me the Word document or PDF manuscript of your existing Amazon published book, and we'll get it on Audible for you, male or female narration. We'll see you there at dfynarration.com. I'm Robert Plank from dfynarration.com, the future narrator of your audiobook.